Hey everyone, I'm here to help you relax and drift off tonight. If you enjoy using these videos to fall asleep, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more calming content. Share where you're watching from and what time it is for you. I'd love to know. Now settle into a cozy spot, take a deep breath, and let's start unwinding together. Maris Calder was the daughter of Emberfell's town watchman. She had grown up under the glow of lanterns and the braying cries of night owls, her life measured by the tolling of the curfew bell. But at 16, Maris began to have dreams she could never fully recall. A city carved of crystal, a funeral procession of white roses, a voice whispering her name across yawning chasms. Each morning, her heart ached with a sense of something lost, something dear she could not name. When her mother fell gravely ill, Maris watched helplessly as sorrow ate at her family's home. She tended bedside vigils with unwavering devotion, but her mother's breast grew shallow, and at the brink of dawn, her mother's eyes fluttered closed forever without a final farewell. Maris's grief fractured her dreams, leaving an emptiness that no lullaby could soothe. Late that night, Maris wandered by the Liren's banks, seeking solace in the silvered water's reflection. It was there that she first noticed the Bridge of Forgotten Dreams, its stones glimmering under the waning moon, calling to her with a silent urgency. In the hush of midnight, she heard it, soft as a sigh, certain as a heartbeat. Cross the bridge and find what sleeps within. Her heart thundered with longing and fear. Could this fabled crossing hold the answers to her broken dreams, to the promise of her mother's unspoken blessing? Maris confided in Alden Thorne, Emberfell's reclusive scholar of arcane lore and local myth. His study was a labyrinth of scrolls, worn tomes, and files labeled with half-forgotten runes. Over candlelight, Alden traced the legend of the bridge in charcoal-stained pages. The Bridge of Forgotten Dreams lies at the crossing of two realms, one of waking sorrow, the other of slumber's hidden wonders. At the bridge's midpoint, the veil thins, where every dream ever forsaken lingers in waiting. To cross is to embrace that which you have lost. To return is to reclaim it, if you can remember its shape. Alden warned that the bridge's magic was as treacherous as it was rare. Souls who crossed without clarity of purpose risked losing their very selves in the dream realm, becoming echoes in the mist. Yet in Maris's anguished eyes, Alden saw a determination that eclipsed caution. He provided her with a dream lantern, a cage of silver filigree holding a single candle blessed to anchor a traveler's spirit against the shifting tides of the dream world. On the night of the new moon, Maris stood at the foot of the bridge. The air was cool, scented with reeds and wild thyme. With the dream lantern in hand, she stepped onto the ancient stones, her pulse in harmony with the bridge's silent song. Halfway across, she paused, eyes shut, and held the lantern high. The candle's flame flickered, and she felt the ground beneath her feet soften, as though she walked upon clouds. When she opened her eyes, Emberfell had vanished. The bridge stretched into a star-speckled expanse, its rails dissolving into strands of silver light. Maris's lantern burned with inner fire, illuminating a path that led into swirling mist. Beyond shimmered visions, whispers of her unborn dreams, a childhood lullaby unsung, a swing in moonlit orchards, a gift of laughter shared with her mother by candles' glow, a promise of love never spoken in daylight's glare. Her heart quivered as each vision brushed her mind. She reached out with trembling fingers, and one image bloomed into flesh. Her mother, pale and smiling, extending a hand that was at once soft and insubstantial. Maris followed the spectral hand across the bridge's phantom stones into the Vale of Vanished Hope, a moonlit realm of floating islands tethered by misty tendrils. Each island bore a memory abandoned in sorrow, one shaped like a garden of withered roses, its petals drifting away. one echoing with the distant melody of a half-played piano, keys silent in frost. One a silent chapel where Maris's own whisper of loss echoed eternally. She drifted from aisle to aisle, gathering each shard of memory in her lantern's light. Yet as she filled the lantern, the air grew thick with longing and fear. Shadows emerged, forms born of regret, vultures of sorrow circling her mind. You cannot have what is lost. Memories bind you to pain. Return and leave me sleeping. Maris pressed the lantern to her breast, voice quaking. I will not be afraid. I will remember. The lantern flared, driving the shadows back into the mist. At the vale's center floated an island crowned by a single weeping willow, its branches trailing into a silver pool. Maris approached. In the pool's mirrored surface, she saw her own reflection, tear-streaked and determined. Beneath it shimmered a final memory, hidden beneath layers of fear. Her mother humming a lullaby by a lantern's glow, brushing Maris's hair with gentle fingers as a child. This was the dream that had first stirred her heart toward the bridge. Trembling, Maris knelt and whispered her mother's name. The willow's branches closed around her, brushing her hair as though it were her mother's hand. The lantern's light pulsed, and Maris felt warmth surge through her. In that moment, she understood. The bridge did not only reveal forgotten dreams, it demanded acceptance of sorrow as the price for reclamation. With a steady breath, she lifted the lantern high. The lantern's glow bathed the vale in golden light. Memories, once fragmented, knit together into a tapestry of hope and love. The willow's tears of silver transformed to golden droplets, dancing into the sky. Maris steadied herself and retraced her steps to the bridge. The phantom stones reformed into ivy-clad arches. As she set foot upon solid earth once more, the new moon waned, and Emberfell's rooftops and riverbanks rose from the mist. She cradled the dream lantern, heavy now with every recovered memory, its flame steady, a beacon of both sorrow and joy. Dawn's first light brushed the hills. At her door stood Alden, his face lined with worry and hope. Maris placed the lantern in his hands. The dreams are yours now, she said, voice soft. Use them to guide others back to what they have lost. In the days that followed, Maris and Alden carried the dream lantern through Emberfell, lighting it at dusk in the town square. Villagers gathered, farmers, weavers, blacksmiths, and children, each whispering a name they feared they had forgotten. One by one, the lantern's flame flickered, then burst with gentle warmth, and tender visions arose in the glow. A father's laughter over bread, a seamstress's first embroidery, a child's first snowfall. With each shared dream, hearts mended. Grief found solace in shared memory. Hope rekindled in the faces of neighbors. In time, the lantern's glass case lined the chapel's altar, its flame burning for all who sought reunion with their forgotten dreams. Years later, the Bridge of Forgotten Dreams remained unchanged, a silent arch across Lirin's waters. Yet no longer did souls vanish into sorrow. Under every waning moon, villagers would lay candles on its mossy stones, sending prayers across the valley's dreamscape. The dream lantern's light guided pilgrim feet along its span, their hearts prepared to embrace both joy and pain. Maris, now elder of Emberfell, walked the bridge each dawn, carrying her mother's lullaby on her lips. She would pause midway, look into the silvered river, and whisper, "For every dream once lost, a light we reclaim. In memory's embrace, we are never the same." And so the Bridge of Forgotten Dreams endured, a testament to love's power to find what was lost, and to the courage of those who walk its stones, lantern in hand, beneath the ever-watchful stars. Leora Quill was a deft pickpocket and a wry smile in the shadowed alleyways of Ballencrest. Orphaned as a child, she learned early that no one mourned a faceless girl, and no coin jingled louder than her eager pocket's echo. She prided herself on two things: stealth, and discretion. Yet when she stole a mysterious iron box from a cloaked stranger in the marketplace, she discovered contents beyond any petty purse. Inside lay the mask of hidden faces, its surface smooth as obsidian, almost breathing with latent power. That night, Leora examined the mask by candlelight in her attic room. The moment her fingers brushed the rune at its center, she felt a ripple through her bones, as though a hidden door had swung open inside her soul. Curiosity overcame caution. She slipped the mask over her eyes and felt the world shift. Her reflection vanished from the mirror. The flickering candlelight no longer cast her shadow. Even her own breathing felt detached, as if she witnessed herself from afar. In the days that followed, Leora tested her new gift. With the mask concealing her features, she moved unseen through the noble districts, lifting purses from silk-clad traders and slipping through the diamond guard outside the Duke's manse. Dogs failed to bark. Guards never challenged her, not even as she scaled walls. No one knew who stole their valuables, for the thief was no one. Yet the mask did more than hide her appearance. Its enchantment erased her name from every whispered memory. Contracts she'd signed, debts she'd owed, friends she'd made, all faded like footprints in mist. At first, she reveled in that liberation. No more need to run from bounty hunters, no more fear of the sting of betrayal. She wore the mask while sleeping, her dreams a haze of faceless faces. But soon Leora discovered a price. She began to forget small things. Her favorite childhood song, the taste of apricot jam, the color of her mother's eyes. Each day, a sliver of her past slipped away. Meanwhile, under the shadow of the citadel's soaring towers, a conspiracy brewed. Lord Cadrian Malvain, a ruthless noble, sought to seize the throne by undermining the regent, Duchess Seraphine. He hired shadow agents to sabotage supply lines, frame loyalists for treason, and spread whispers of rebellion. Yet every time a spy was caught, the evidence vanished. No names, no faces, no tracers. The pattern unnerved the regent's advisors. Whoever orchestrated these attacks left no trace. By chance, Leora burgled the manse of Malvain's chief lieutenant, Lovert Black. Inside the safe she cracked, she found letters bearing the mark of Kieran Veilweaver, the same rune on her mask. The letters detailed the scheme to overthrow the regent. Leora realized her theft had stumbled upon a conspiracy that threatened the city. But she could not reveal the culprit, for she herself bore the robber's mark, the mask of hidden faces. Duchess Seraphine, renowned for her wisdom, consulted the ancient chronicles to uncover the Veilweaver rune. Through long nights in the palace archives, she learned of the mask's legend and its vanished creator. She dispatched her most trusted knight, Sir Corwin Ashhart, to vanquish the hidden threat. Corwin tracked Leora to the rooftops of Valencrest. In the moonlit haze, he cornered her near the old lighthouse. "Remove the mask," he commanded. "Who are you working for?" But beneath the mask, Leora's genuine fear and sorrow shone through. She saw not a bounty hunter, but a man bound by duty. Through terse words, Leora explained the plot against the regent and her own part in unwittingly abetting it. Corwin, bound by honor, offered her a choice: keep the mask and vanish forever, or return it and face justice for her theft. But in doing so, help expose Lord Malvain's conspiracy. Torn, Leora hesitated. The mask's promise of oblivion beckoned, but her conscience, rekindled by Corwin's faith, urged her toward redemption. At dawn's first light, she handed the mask to Corwin. In the palace armory, under watchful eyes, Leora and Corwin presented the mask of hidden faces to Duchess Seraphine. The regent, robes trailing like starlight, regarded the mask with a mixture of awe and sorrow. "This artifact cost us too much," she whispered. With solemn ceremony, the mask was placed upon a marble block carved with Kieran's rune. The blacksmith's hammer descended, once, twice, chipping away at the onyx surface. With each strike, the mask's spell unraveled. Silver filigree flaked like moonlight on water. The final blow shattered the mask, and a ripple of silver mist streamed out, carrying faint echoes of every hidden face that had worn it. As the fragments dissolved, Leora felt her memories flood back. The sound of her mother's lullaby, the laughter of her childhood friends, the taste of freedom before guilt. Corwin, too, felt the weight of his duty lift like a yoke. The regent smiled, her eyes bright. No one shall again hide behind this mask. With the mask broken, the conspiracy could no longer hide in shadow. Armed with Leora's testimony and the recovered letters, Duchess Seraphine's guards swooped upon Lord Malvain's stronghold. He and his co-conspirators were exposed in the harsh glare of day and brought before the High Court. Leora, in exchange for her cooperation, received a royal pardon, her past sins forgiven as she helped save the city. Corwin, by Seraphine's decree, was knighted as Sir Corwin Lionheart, his name forever linked to Leora's bravery. She chose not to join the palace but returned to Valencrest, opening a small gallery of memory, portraits of citizens who had helped rebuild trust, commemorating lives once hidden. In the aftermath, scholars delved into Kieran Veilweaver's life. They unearthed letters describing his creation of the mask as an experiment in empathy, to feel another's pain unseen. But he foresaw that anonymity alone could breed tyranny. In his final journal entry, he wrote, "Let this mask be a lesson, that to hide one's face is to sever the bonds of community. True freedom lies not in invisibility, but in the courage to be seen and to see another's truth." His workshop was converted into a hall of honest faces, where citizens pledged to live without masks of deceit, metaphorical or literal. Years passed and Valencrest thrived under Duchess Seraphine's just rule. Corwin founded an order of guardians sworn to protect the city's honor. Leora's gallery became a cherished institution, reminding all that every face, every name matters. On twilight nights when the moon cast long shadows down cobblestone streets, the people of Valencrest would pause before Kieran's rune-carved block of marble, now a monument to the mask of hidden faces. They placed flowers and tokens at its base and spoke the artisan's charge. "Let no one hide their face, for invisibility lies our shared humanity." And thus the city slept beneath starlit skies, its people unmasked, their identities and their stories, brightly alive in the open air of day. Evelyn Hargrave, a quiet archivist from the city of Charfield, had never heard of the everlasting echoes until the day an aged solicitor arrived at her office with a letter bound in burgundy wax. Evelyn's great-aunt Celeste, estranged for decades, had bequeathed her the cottage, along with all its secrets. At 33, Evelyn found herself heir to a house she had never known, her curiosity piqued by rumors of its magical nature. She traveled to Evermore beneath a cloudy sky, the wheels of her carriage crunching over frost-rimmed fields. Villagers offered condolences and warnings. "Mind what you uncover, miss," the blacksmith said. "Once you cross that threshold, you carry every memory it holds." Evelyn's resolve only strengthened. As an archivist, she lived for lost histories. She would preserve the house's legacy. The moment Evelyn crossed the threshold, she sensed something uncanny. The hall smelled of old parchment and rosewater. Her footsteps awoke soft whispers, snatches of conversation in her great-aunt's voice, though Celeste had died years before. In the parlor, a portrait of Celeste by candlelight shifted. Once a stern matron, her lips curved into a gentle smile as though greeting a beloved niece. Evelyn's heart fluttered. The house was alive with memory. That night, she lay in the chamber with embroidered drapes and drifted into uneasy sleep. In her dreams, she wandered the hallways as a child, hearing her own voice giggle in a game of hide-and-seek. She woke at dawn, tears in her eyes, unsure if the echoes were real or born of exhaustion. Over the following days, Evelyn cataloged every room. Portraits changed by the hour. The Hargrave ancestors, once austere, now blinked in the morning light, leaning toward one another in conversation. Eve's own reflection appeared in a gilded mirror, eyes widened in surprise as the image behind her morphed into Celeste's encouraging gaze. She noted each change in a leather-bound journal, determined to create a guide to the house's phenomena. In the library, bookshelf spines echoed the titles of books long removed. A gentle tug on her memory made Evelyn recall her grandmother reading fairy tales by firelit hearth. That day she recovered a volume of Celeste's poetry inscribed with elegant script. Memories are seeds sown in silent hearts. This house is the soil that holds them fast. Evelyn realized the house did not merely replay memories. It nurtured them, keeping them vivid. One evening, Evelyn found the old caretaker, Ms. Blythe, in the kitchen, stirring a pot of spiced tea. Blythe's face was lined with years of watching echoes awaken. "I've tended this place since your aunt left," Blythe confessed. "It carries our joys and our griefs. Don't let it trap you in the past, dear. Memories give life meaning, but they must not be your cage." Evelyn, torn between fascination and fear, asked, "Can the house forget or release memories?" Blythe shook her head. "Only the living can choose to move on. This house remembers all." That night, Evelyn dreamt of her mother's final goodbye, an event she had repressed. The house forced it upon her, unflinchingly. While cataloging Celeste's belongings, Evelyn discovered an ornate music box in a hidden cupboard. Winding it produced a haunting lullaby she had never heard, yet knew in her blood. The melody summoned a memory of Celeste teaching Evelyn to dance as a child, twirling in a spring garden. Evelyn laughed softly through tears as the memory filled her mind. Determined to harness the house's power for healing, she invited her friend Marcus, a psychologist investigating collective memory. He observed, "The house externalizes suppressed memories, enabling you to process them. It's as if your subconscious is woven into the walls." Encouraged, Evelyn began exploring the house's hidden crannies, uncovering tokens, lockets, letters, a cracked teacup that unlocked new recollections. Her father's lullaby, a childhood promise, her first heartbreak. On a chilly autumn night, Evelyn hosted a gathering. Old friends and curious neighbors invited to share memories in the house. In the dining room, beneath a chandelier of amber prisms, each guest spoke of a cherished moment, weddings, births, farewells. As they spoke, the walls shimmered. Scenes flickered in the paint, as if the very fabric absorbed and replayed their stories. A hush fell when an elderly neighbor, Mrs. Fletcher, recounted running through rain-slicked streets to deliver medicine in wartime. The portrait of Celeste at the end of the table wept silver tears, her painted hand extended in solidarity. The guests wept too, embracing the healing power of shared memory. Yet not all memories were gentle. In the attic, Evelyn found an old trunk containing letters from a suitor Celeste had spurned. When she read them aloud, the house groaned. The letters unraveled the memory of a wedding Celeste never attended, her regret filling the air like a chill wind. Portraits of Celeste's friends shifted into mourning dresses, their eyes haunted. The attic grew cold, the shadows pressing in. Terrified, Evelyn fled downstairs only to find the front hall locked, doors sealed by unseen force. The voices of regret echoed. What if? Fear surged. She realized memory could wound as deeply as time. Determined not to be imprisoned by regret, Evelyn returned to the attic. She placed Celeste's letters before the trap door and recited vows to forgive herself and her aunt for decisions made in pain. She spoke of kindness, acceptance, and the right to move forward. The letters glowed briefly, then dissolved into dust. The shutters in the front hall clattered open. In that moment, Evelyn understood Blythe's warning. The house could reveal every memory, but only she could choose which to carry forward. She descended to the parlor where dim portraits brightened, joy restored to painted smiles. In spring, Evelyn opened the house as the Everlasting Echoes Archive, inviting visitors to explore memory's depths. Students of history, families seeking closure, artists finding inspiration. She installed listening stations in each room, headphones playing curated memories, Celeste's music box, the lullabies, the wartime stories, allowing guests to experience the house's magic safely. She taught guided rituals, honoring joy by wind chimes in the garden, releasing sorrow by writing letters burned in the hearth. The house blossomed into a sanctuary for remembrance and renewal. Years passed. Evelyn's hair silvered atop her head, but her eyes shone with purpose. Blythe retired at last, handing Evelyn the caretaker's keys. Evelyn placed them on a velvet pillow and said, "The house remembers, and so shall I, but not forever." She kissed Blythe's cheek as dawn's first light filtered through stained glass, painting memories in rainbow hues. Evelyn's children, learning the rituals, danced in the gardens beneath morning glories. To them, the house of everlasting echoes was not a prison of the past, but a wellspring of stories, a testament that memory, though eternal, must be lived beyond the walls that record it. Long after Evelyn's time, the cottage at the edge of Evermore remained a beacon of memory's power. Scholars studied its magic. Seekers found solace in its halls. Visitors wrote their names on silver slips and released them into the hearth. The house stood, its beams humming with laughter and tears, its walls alive with every soul who passed through. And on nights when the wind swept through the willows and the moon traced broad arcs across the sky, the house of everlasting echoes whispered anew, "Remember well, live fully, yet let the present shine brighter than any echo of the past." Ilara Byrne was the archivist of Grafin Library, a repository of local lore and half-heard legends. When a courier delivered an anonymous letter, bearing only these words, "Come to the river, listen," her scholarly curiosity ignited. She had spent her career chasing myths, the haunted chapel, the dancing lights of the marsh, the ghostly nights on Blackridge Road. But nothing intrigued her so deeply as the notion that a river might carry voices from the past. That evening, under a pale harvest moon, Ilara packed her satchel, notebooks, ink, a flask of black tea, and her mother's old fountain pen. She locked the library's oak doors and set off toward the marshland where the river of forgotten echoes wound its way through bracken and reeds. The riverbank was silent as Ilara approached. Willow branches trailed like spectral fingers over the water's surface. She knelt by the edge, cupped her hands, and drank. The cold rush of water slid down her throat, and she heard it, a voice as soft as silk, but edged with sorrow. "Madeline, Madeline." Ilara stood, heart pounding. She scanned the banks for any sign of another human, but only the moonlit reeds swayed. She scribbled in her notebook, first whisper, "Madeline." No context. She pressed her palm to the earth. The ground thrummed with memory. The night deepened and more names rose. Roland, Aelith. Each name carried a breath of regret, a sigh of longing. Ilara shivered, realizing the river did not merely echo names, it mourned them. The next morning, Ilara visited the nearby village of Hollowbridge. Its residents were wary of the river. Many had heard its whispers but would not speak its name. At the Rusty Lantern Tavern, she bought a mug of bitter ale and questioned the barkeep, old Tom. "Why does the river call out those names?" she asked. Tom's rheumy eyes darted to the window. "Names slip from the tongue, Miss Byrne. Folks forget mothers and fathers, old friends and lovers. The river gathers what we lose and whispers it back." Ilara leaned forward. "Can it restore memory? If I hear a name, can I remember the life it belonged to?" Tom shrugged. "Some have tried to track the names, digging graves or old archives. They say the river speaks of those whose stories went untold. But memory, once lost, is a fragile thing. Best not to chase shadows. Ilara left unsettled but determined. She would chase those names no matter where they led. That night, under a slivered moon, Ilara returned to the river. She seated herself on a moss-covered stone and closed her eyes, letting the murmurs wash over her. She heard Aelith again and followed it upstream, stepping from stone to stone. Where the water deepened into a crystalline pool, she paused. By the pool's edge lay two weather-worn stones, carved in the shape of entwined hearts. As she approached, the wind carried a soft melody, a woman's lullaby in a tongue Ilara did not know. She opened her notebook. Song of Aelith, lullaby for a child? No, a lover's farewell. A rustle behind her made her whirl around. There stood a man, tall, dark-haired, with eyes like moonlight on steel. He held a lute at his side. Ilara gasped. The man seemed rooted in shadow. "I am Rowan," he said, voice echoing like a distant chord. "I come each night to sing for Aelith, my lost love. I built these stones in the centuries since her passing. Yet each dawn I awake alone, and the river renews its lullaby." Ilara felt a kinship with Rowan's sorrow. "I'm Ilara. I study the river's whispers, seek the stories behind forgotten names." She offered her notebook. "May I record your song?" Rowan nodded, his face etched with joy and pain. As he strummed, the lullaby wove through the night, and Ilara's pen flew across the page. For weeks, Ilara and Rowan met beneath the willow's branches. She recorded each song, poems of farmhands' first loves, mothers' cradle songs, vows broken on moonlit bridges. Her notebook swelled, a tapestry of forgotten lives. Yet as she wrote, Ilara felt a heaviness settle in her heart. Each story was a wound, joy cut short, devotion unrequited, dreams dissolved. The river had not only preserved names, it had preserved heartbreak. One dusk, she confided in Rowan, "I fear I carry too many sorrows within me now." He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You give these souls a voice. In remembering them, you honor their lives. The river's sorrow is ours to share, so that it may lighten in sharing." Ilara nodded, tears glinting in moonlight. She resolved to complete her task, to gather every whisper into a chronicle, so that no one in Dravenmore would ever forget. Ilara returned to Grayfen Library, but the veil's magic followed her. In the silent stacks, she shaped her notes into a grand volume, the Chronicle of Forgotten Echoes. Each chapter bore a river-whispered name, followed by story and song. Madeline, the seamstress who crafted sails for ships she never saw set out to sea. Roland, the blacksmith's son whose laughter echoed in every ringing hammer. Aelith, the minstrel who sang lullabies of home and hope. As Ilara wrote, the chronicle seemed to hum with life. She bound its pages with ribbons of silver thread and wove a binding of starlit vellum. Yet she hesitated to present it, fearing the burden of sorrow might overwhelm the townsfolk. In midwinter, when the nights were longest, Ilara proposed a festival of remembering. At the river's edge, lanterns were hung from willow branches. Villagers lit candles on their windowsills. In the square, the chronicle lay open on a lectern. Ilara stood before the crowd and read the first story, Madeline's seamstress song. Then Rowan stepped forward, lute in hand, and played the metal-soft melody again. As the music mingled with the river's whispers, the villagers closed their eyes, tears falling like silent blessings. One by one, names were read, songs were sung, and memories shared. Grief softened into tender remembrance. Sorrow found strength in community. The river's voice joined their chorus, no longer a lone chant, but a hymn woven from countless hearts. That night, under the full winter moon, the festival reached its zenith. Ilara, Rowan, and the villagers invoked an ancient blessing. River of echoes, keeper of names, we bind our stories, our loss, our gains. No more shall sorrow flow unshared. In song and memory, we are repaired. As the final chord faded, the river's murmur shifted. The once haunting whispers harmonized into a gentle lullaby, an oral ribbon of remembrance. A gentle glow rose from the waters, and the names no longer vanished but settled into the riverbed, shining like polished stones. In the weeks that followed, the river of forgotten echoes became the river of remembered names. Travelers came to place candles on its banks and to retrieve polished stones bearing ancestral names. The chronicle found its home in Grafin Library, open for all to read and remember. Ilara, her heart lightened by shared sorrow, resumed her scholarly work, collecting not only tales of sadness, but of joy, resilience, and love. Rowan's lullaby became the Vale's anthem, sung at weddings and farewells alike. Under the watchful gaze of the moon, Celestine Vale had learned that no name, no life need ever truly be lost. Generations passed. The river still murmured beneath the willows at twilight, but its voice was now a song of unity. Ancestors and descendants joined in an unbroken chain of memory. On winter nights, villagers gather at the river's edge, place stones in their pockets, and listen, no longer seeking lost names, but celebrating the echo of every life that shaped their own. And sometimes among the gentle chorus, a single voice whispers, "Thank you, remember me." For in the vale of Dravenmore, memory flows eternal, carried on the river's gentle current, whispered beneath the stars, and enshrined in hearts that dare to remember. Aurelia Darrow, a scholar of forgotten customs, undertook a journey to Celestine Vale at the height of summer's solstice. She traversed winding passes and meadows dotted with wild irises, before at last glimpsing the town's lanterns flickering like distant satellites. As she descended the final cobblestone lane, she felt the air grow cooler, scented with night-blooming jasmine and dewy moss. At the inn, she discovered a single rule posted in polished silver script. Beware the star fall. Remain within your lodgings once the first star is seen. In the common room, villagers, pale-skinned and wide-eyed, drank spiced tea and spoke softly of the night's ritual. Aurelia took a room overlooking the central square, and with mounting excitement, awaited the first star's emergence. That evening, as the sun bled its last upon the horizon, the town's church bell tolled once. Churchgoers, priests, teachers, and fishermen alike returned home in measured steps. Curtains were drawn, shutters latched, and lamplight died to embers. In Aurelia's room, the single window framed the violet sky. Her heartbeat quickened when the first star, a silver mote, blinked into existence. An otherworldly hush swept the town. Even the breeze stilled. Below, through the fogged glass, she glimpsed her innkeeper, Mrs. Wren, laying a pale shawl across her shoulders, whispering a prayer of starlit repose. Curtains stirred as lights extinguished room by room. Then darkness reigned. Only the sky remained lit by the Milky Way's ghostly river. Aurelia felt a lull wash over her and succumbed to slumber, her last waking thought the hush of millions of silent watchers above. Aurelia awoke at the church bell's peal, marking dawn's approach. The world felt different. She smelled roasted coffee and fresh bread, heard the clink of plates and cheerful chatter. At the inn's hearth, villagers exchanged quiet smiles. "Did you dream?" asked Mrs. Wren. Aurelia, head still heavy with sleep's residue, hesitated. Over breakfast, a tapestry of shared vision unfurled. Old Bram, the miller, recounted drifting among fluorescent nebulae. Young Isla, the baker's daughter, spoke of flying on comet tails, and Marin, the blacksmith, saw himself forging stars in a cosmic forge. Aurelia, heart racing, described soaring above the vale on a pillar of starlight. The townsfolk nodded in reverent understanding. Each dream wove into a grand, collective story, one they shared every dawn. In Celestine's heart stood the Dreamweaver's Hall, a circular building ringed with stained glass depicting star constellations. Inside, an elder known as the Dreamweaver sat before an immense loom, threads shimmering like liquid starlight. Each morning, she wove the previous night's dreams into tapestries, one panel for every household. Those tapestries were hung in the square, reflecting each dream in vivid color. Aurelia visited the hall, marveling at the loom's strands, silver for wonder, violet for sorrow, gold for joy. The Dreamweaver, an ageless woman named Serene, explained, "Our dreams strengthen the weave of reality. We honor the stars by listening, for they speak to us in visions." Aurelia marveled at the harmony, a town united by nightly slumber, weaving their dreams into a living record of their shared soul. At dusk, Aurelia joined the nightly procession of children, known as the Children of Stardust, who followed firefly-lit lanterns to the meadows beyond town. There, beneath the open sky, they lay upon blankets of woven moon silk, pointing to shapes in the constellations. Parents watched, knowing that the dreams kindled here would feed the Dreamweaver's loom. Aurelia sat among them, tightrope of consciousness straining between wonder and fatigue. As the first star appeared, she closed her eyes and felt the veil's magic seep into her bones. She dreamed of planets orbiting silent suns, of ancient libraries adrift in cosmic seas, and of a figure beckoning from a celestial shore. When the bell tolled at midnight, she awoke to the meadows empty, the lanterns extinguished, and the veil's hush returning. Aurelia's reputation as a dream scholar spread. She attracted the attention of Alaric Tane, an itinerant astronomer seeking answers in Celestine skies. He set up his brass telescope in the square each day, mapping star maps that aligned with the Dreamweaver's tapestries. "The veil's magic peaks only when the galactic core of our Milky Way rises," he explained. "Should that alignment shift, should the sky itself change, your dreams may turn into nightmares." The villagers listened in silent dread. Such an event occurred once every 7 centuries and had preceded a sudden collapse in the veil's magic. Years of dark dreams and sleepless nights. Aurelia, troubled by Alaric's warning, realized that their delicate harmony between slumber and starlight was fragile. The veil's very soul lay in sky's constancy. One moonless night, the sky's pattern faltered. Alaric at his telescope cried out, "The core drifts. The constellations have slipped." Across the veil, villagers hesitated in their nightly rituals. In the meadows, children awakened, screaming at nightmares of starless voids. Tapestries unraveled in the hall as the Dreamweaver wept silver tears. Fear swelled in hearts long lulled by cosmic lullabies. Aurelia stood in the square, the Dreamweaver's loom in ruins. She placed a hand upon the loom's fractured strands and whispered, "We cannot let our stars fall." Alaric joined her, raising his telescope to the heavens. "We must restore the sky's pattern," he declared. "We must dream with purpose, not sleep in surrender." That night, for the first time, the veil held a vigil of purposeful dreaming. Instead of drifting unconsciously, each person prepared a dream, an intention woven from hope against the void. The miller dreamed of rebuilding broken mills by starlight, the baker of hearths that never cooled, the children of laughter that banished silence. Aurelia, with trembling heart, chose a dream of cosmic harmony, to weave sky and soul back into sync. Beneath a shifting tapestry of stray stars, the townsfolk lay in the meadows, voices raised in a haunting chant of longing and resolve. The air thickened with magic as their shared intention echoed across the veil. Alaric's telescope caught the first shimmer of the galactic core realigning, its glow rekindling the constellations. Tapestries in the hall glowed and wove themselves anew. The Dreamweaver's loom sprang to life, threads of moonlight and shadow dancing in harmony. At dawn's first light, Celestine Vale found itself at peace. The night road of dreams remained as wondrous as ever, but now tempered by conscious intent. The villagers awakened to a new sense of purpose, faces aglow with starlit memory and unwavering hope. The dreamweaver, her loom restored, unveiled a new tapestry, a celestial map woven from the veil's purposeful dreams, a guide for generations to come. Aurelia and Alaric presented their findings to the keepers of the veil, a council formed to safeguard the harmony between slumber and stars. They founded the Observatory of Intentional Dreaming, where scholars, astronomers, and dreamweavers studied the sky's dance and guided each night's vigil. Centuries have passed since that night of cosmic realignment. Celestine Vale endures, its cottages nestled beneath ancient pines whose silhouettes trace the moon's path. Each dusk, the church bell rings thrice, lanterns dim, and the night road emerges in mist. Villagers gather in fields and halls to weave dreams of purpose, healing old wounds, nurturing new hopes, and listening to the stars' silent counsel. Aurelia Morgan's name lives on in song and story, alongside Alaric Taines as the astronomer who read the heavens and guided the veil back from the brink. The dreamweaver's loom spins on, tapestries growing ever grander. On clear nights when the Milky Way spills its silver fire across the sky, you may still hear the veil's gentle chant floating on the breeze. By starlit promise, dreams we bind, to guide our sleeping hearts and minds. Though midnight's veil may slip and wane, beneath the stars we dwell again. And in the hush that follows, the night road's pale ribbon unfurls once more. An invitation to walk between the worlds of dream and night, where every heart, beneath the stars, finds its rest and its purpose anew. Eleanora Vale had been a rising star in the court of King Emrys, her silver voice praised in every hall, from the gleaming spires of Everlight to the shadowed taverns of Stormhaven. Yet behind her brilliant smiles and flawless performances lay a grief she could neither shake nor sing away, the loss of her beloved brother to a sudden plague. Every note she sang felt hollow without him to applaud. Every aria a reminder of joy stolen too soon. When the king fell gravely ill and his royal chronicler spoke of a cure hidden in ancient arts, Eleanora saw a path to salvation, not only for her sovereign, but for her own wounded heart, a quest to find the legendary harp of sorrowful strings, whose music was said to heal even the gravest of ills by unburdening the heart of its deepest pain. In the dusty stacks of Everlight's grand library, Eleanora discovered a brittle manuscript bound in black leather. Its margins were scrawled with runes and trembling notes referencing the harp's maker, an Arcadian mage named Serithiel, and a hidden valley where the heartwood willow still wept. The final page bore a smudged map, serrated mountains, an endless sea, and, at its center, a grove encircled by moonlit mists. Armed with her lute, a flask of strong wine, and the map, Eleanora set out under the pale gaze of the waxing moon. In each town she passed, she questioned ferrymen, priests, and witches, following obscure clues until at last she stood before the tarnished gates of the Moonweaver Vale, the harp's last whispered home. Moonweaver Vale lay hidden beyond a curtain of silver-leaved trees. As Eleanora entered the grove, she felt the air grow cool and thick with magic. At its heart stood the weeping willow, its bark glistening with translucent tears that dripped into a shimmering pool. Beneath its boughs lay an alcove of smooth stone, and upon the stone, the harp of sorrowful strings. Eleanora's breath caught at the harp's radiant frame. It seemed alive, its strings quivering with silent longing. With trembling fingers, she plucked one string, and the air shuddered with a note of exquisite sorrow. She plucked another, and the pool at her feet rippled with memories of her brother's laughter. Eleanora realized that to claim the harp's power, she must accept its song, to let her grief flow freely, unafraid of its depth. That night, beneath the willow's weeping branches, Eleanora played her first melody. Each note called forth a shard of memory, Her brother's bright grin, the warmth of his hand in hers, the thunder of his cough in midnight keep. Tears fell as freely as the willow's crystal dew, and the grove echoed with sorrow that was at once deeply personal and universally human. When the final chord faded into silence, the pool's surface glowed with new light. There, on its mirrored face, Eleanor saw an image. King Emrys, pale but breathing, his fever breaking. She knew then that the harp's sorrowful music had wrought a cure. By giving voice to grief, it restored balance to the mind and body. Eleanor returned triumphantly to Everlight, the harp of sorrowful strings cradled in her arms. She found the king stirring, color returning to his cheeks. As word of her success spread, the court hailed her as a savior. But in her heart, the victory was bittersweet. For each triumph the harp granted, her own sorrow deepened, forever entwined with the music it produced. Despite the king's gratitude, Eleanor retreated from courtly life. She established a small haven for those burdened by grief, widows, wounded warriors, exiled poets, where she played the harp nightly, channeling their sorrows into healing melodies. The once glamorous bard became a healer, known not for her voice but for the harp's lamenting song. Seasons passed, and the grove's tears filled the pool until it overflowed, spilling moonlit water into Eleanor's sanctuary. She realized the harp demanded a price. With each sorrow it sealed away, a part of her own spirit was bound to the willow's weeping heartwood. The process was healing for all who heard it, but binding for its wielder. At first, Eleanor welcomed the closeness. The deepest corners of her grief felt illuminated by the harp's compassion. But soon she found herself restless, her voice fading, her own memories dimming. The harp's sorrow was limitless, and she feared it would consume her entirely unless she learned to temper its power. Determined to master the harp without losing herself, Eleanor sought the counsel of Nysa the Lorekeeper, an ancient seer who dwelled in the crystal spires. Nysa taught Eleanor a ritual of harmony, to weave notes of hope into the harp's lament. By pairing sorrowful chords with minor refrains of joy, memories of childhood sunlight, the laughter of lovers, the triumph of overcoming despair, the harp's sorrow could be balanced. Armed with this knowledge, Eleanor journeyed across rolling moors and sunlit valleys, gathering talismans of joy, a sunflower pressed in a book of poems, the tinkling bell from a village wedding, the final rose from a knight's battlefield vow. With each token, she practiced new melodies, grief woven with gratitude, lament threaded with resolve. On the night of the spring equinox, beneath a sky of silvered stars, Eleanor lit candles around the willow's alcove. The pool glimmered with ancient light as she plucked the harp's first sorrowful chord, then lifted her eyes to the moon. She wove the tokens of joy into her melody, guiding each sorrowful note toward a dawn-like refrain. The grove trembled as sorrow and hope entwined. Tears of crystal shimmered down the willow's bark and mingled with the pool, which glowed brighter than ever. A hush fell as the final note died on the breeze. Then the pool erupted in a fountain of light, cascading over the grove's edges. When the light subsided, the harp's strings lay still, its frame softly humming with balanced magic. Eleanor felt the weight of sorrow shift into something more, an empathy tempered by strength, a compassion fused with hope. Eleanor returned to Abernathy Cove, with the harp and the sunlit tokens nestled in her satchel. She reopened her sanctuary, now called the Hall of Harmonies, where both grief and joy were honored in equal measure. Pilgrims came from distant lands to hear her play, not to banish sorrow entirely, but to learn its place within the wider symphony of life. King Emrys himself visited, kneeling before the harp. He spoke of how her music had saved him and countless others. In gratitude, he decreed the harp in Eleanor's sanctuary as a royal ward, ensuring its protection and the continuation of its healing songs for generations to come. Years passed, and Eleanor's hair silvered like moonlight upon her shoulders. Yet her eyes retained the spark of the girl who first dared to feel her deepest sorrow. Under her gentle guidance, the harp of sorrowful strings became a symbol of the delicate balance between grief and hope, an instrument that taught the world to remember, to weep, and to find strength in sorrow's wake. Beneath the weeping willow, the pool shimmered perpetually with crystal tears of joy and sorrow alike. And on nights when the wind carried a hush of longing through the branches, travelers would gather by the alder path to listen, to weep if they must, to sing if they could, and to know that in every sorrow lay the seed of tomorrow's dawn. Mire Haven was a bustling city built around the gate's massive arch. Its white walls gleamed in the sun, inspired towers crowned its districts, each a testament to human ambition. The city was governed by the keepers, a council of scholars, mages, and veterans tasked with studying the gate's mysteries and safeguarding its threshold. Each day, watchers in cobalt blue cloaks patrolled the plaza beneath the arch, recording arrivals and departures, studying the gate's ever-shifting energies. A young apprentice named Calum served as a watcher's scribe. He spent his hours transcribing the accounts of travelers, merchants who claimed to have bartered with silken-winged beings, exiles who swore they had glimpsed the bones of worlds where time unraveled, pilgrims who spoke of fountains of memory where lost hopes flowed like wine. Calum's heart, full of yearning, ached at the thought of seeing these wonders himself. Yet the keepers, wary of newcomers pressed to the gate, forbade unauthorized passage. The gate never closed, but it would not admit the unprepared. One violet dusk, as Calum finished his ledger, a stranger appeared at the gate. He was clad in raven-black robes, his face hidden beneath a cowl. He carried no pack, only a small lantern glowing with ghostly light. When the watchers barred his path, he raised a hand and spoke in a voice like wind among silver leaves. "I am the gate-bearer, guardian of the endless threshold. I come to deliver a prophecy. When the twin moons align thrice in a single night, the gate will open its true path. Only the chosen one may walk it without vanishing. Beware the shadows of ruin, for they gather at the gate's edge, hungering for unwary souls." Then the gate-bearer vanished, leaving behind a hush and questions alight in every eye. The keepers honed their scholars on this prophecy, the alignment of the twin moons, a celestial event not seen in 1,000 years, would mark a turning point in the gate's history. Calum, heart aflame, longed to be the chosen one, though he scarcely knew what that title portended. Over the following months, as twin moons Venus and Alicia circled ever closer in the night sky, pilgrims amassed outside the gate. Some came seeking answers to ancient riddles. Others thirsted for escape from crumbling homelands. Calum watched them through his scrolls, fascinated by their diversity. Armored knights in tarnished steel, philosophers clutching oaken staffs, street urchins with eyes like quicksilver. The keepers opened halls of training, classes in astral navigation, in warding against ethereal predators, in deciphering the gate's runes. Calum, though not a pilgrim, volunteered as an aide, learning the lore he had only transcribed. He studied with the oracular seer Lysandra, whose eyes could read the flow of fate itself. He sparred with the battle priest Ulrich, learning to channel inner strength. He practiced mapping dreamscapes with the mystic Talia. Each lesson etched new purpose into his soul. If the prophecy named him chosen, he would need every skill and every shred of courage. At last, the fateful night arrived. In the cobalt sky above Mire Haven, Venus and Elysia appeared side by side, then overlapped in the first of 3 alignments. A hush fell over the plaza. Watchers sounded bells of crystal. Pilgrims knelt, chanting ancient invocations. The gate's runes flared, silver fire racing along the arch. The second alignment saw the moons drift apart, then converge again, flaring the runes brighter. On the third, the gate split open in narrow ebony slits, revealing a corridor of shadow and starlight extending into infinity. Caleb's heart thundered as Lysandra approached him. "The gate calls the chosen," she whispered. "Step forward and claim your destiny." He felt every eye turn to him. Pilgrim, apprentice, dreamer. With trembling resolve, he stepped across the threshold. Beyond the gate lay the labyrinth of lost tomorrows, corridors that folded upon themselves, shifting like pieces in an eternal puzzle. The air tasted of memory and possibility. Every turn could lead to wonder or oblivion. Caleb felt the pulse of his destiny echoed in the silent hum of the halls. He navigated by the prophecy's thread and Lysandra's guidance echoing in his mind. He braved corridors haunted by echoes of future joys and regrets, visions of a child he might father, of a realm he could rule, of betrayals yet to come. At each crossroad, he consulted the runes etched on the walls, interpreting their guidance with the skills he had honed. Sometimes the quickest path glowed faintly with silver light. Other times he listened for the distant echo of his own voice calling back, "This way." After endless turns, Caleb reached the chamber of dread and hope, a circular room lit by pale phosphorescence. In its center stood a mirror of black glass, the heart's eye. Legend held that one must confront both their greatest fear and their deepest hope here. Beyond the mirror lay the gate's final threshold. Caleb approached, heart aching with the weight of his quest. He gazed into the mirror. First he saw his fear, Meyerhaven consumed by shadows, its people lost, the gate devouring every soul. He felt that dread coiling around his heart. Then the mirror's surface rippled, revealing his hope, a world united, knowledge flowing freely, love restoring broken lands. His soul trembled between despair and aspiration. With a cry of determination, Caleb reached out and placed his hand upon the glass. He drew his fear into himself, acknowledging its power, then embraced his hope, letting its warmth spill into the shadows. The mirror cracked and shattered in a shower of starlight. The walls trembled as the labyrinth reformed itself into a single corridor. At its end, another gate of iron and stone gleamed beneath twin moons. Caleb stepped through and found himself standing on a promontory overlooking a city of crystal towers and violet lakes. Strange figures moved through the streets, beings of light and shadow, phoenix-winged scholars and serpentine seers. The gate stood behind him, a silent promise that passage remained open forever. A voice like wind on glass spoke, "Welcome, chosen of the gate. You have proven your worth. This is Eternia, a realm of possibility unfettered. Here your hopes and wisdom may guide worlds. But beware, the gate never closes, and those who enter without purpose may wander lost until they become shadows themselves." Caleb returned to Meyerhaven through the gate's open threshold, carrying with him a vial of Eternian stardust, the gift of a world beyond. News of his success spread like dawn's glow. The keepers hailed him as champion. Lysandra wept tears of pride, and Ulrich proclaimed a feast in his honor. Though he reveled in triumph, Caleb's heart remained steadfast. The gate was not a prize to be claimed, but a bridge to be stewarded. He established the Hall of Thresholds, a place of study and compassion, where pilgrims prepared for their own journeys. Scholars deciphered Eternian lore, and guardians protected the gate's promise. Under Caleb's guidance, the gate became a source of wonder and unity, not fear. Realms shared knowledge, traded art and healing, and wove a tapestry of connected worlds. Years passed, yet the gate remained ever open. Caleb, now master of the gate, walked its threshold daily, lantern in hand. He welcomed scholars seeking wisdom, healers searching for cures, and dreamers yearning for horizons beyond. Some stayed in Meyerhaven to build new lives. Others passed through, weaving their own tales in distant lands. Every sunrise brought new faces, Every sunset, fresh departures. And every night, under the twin moons, the gate's runes glowed in quiet vigilance, reminding all that possibility and peril walk hand in hand, that curiosity demands responsibility, and that the greatest journeys begin when one dares to step across an open threshold. Long after Calem's name passed into legend, the gate that never closes stood as a testament to the boundless spirit of exploration. Pilgrims still come, drawn by whispers of far-off wonders. Scholars trace its runes. Bards compose epics of the chosen one who mastered his fear and hope. And on moonlit nights, when the air is thick with promise, one may still hear the soft hum of the gate's magic, a lullaby of infinite horizons, urging every soul to walk onward, for the gate never closes, and the worlds beyond await those with hearts courageous enough to cross. Ruth Sinclair, a young archivist from London, had never believed in ghosts or curses. When she inherited Coldwater Manor from a distant cousin, she barely remembered. She saw only an opportunity, a grand old house in need of cataloging, dusty books to be sorted, and a substantial estate that might fund her academic research. She arrived on a crisp autumn afternoon, her luggage crammed into a battered motor car, and pushed open the creaking front door to a swirl of motes and sunlit air. The manor smelled of old oak, faded tapestries, and long-forgotten memories. Mrs. Whitlock, the manor's caretaker, met her in the great hall. "Miss Sinclair," she said in a voice as brittle as parched leaves, "you must pardon the house's peculiarities. Our mistress left strict instructions. The portrait in the West Gallery must never be moved or shown by moonlight." Ruth nodded politely, attributing the admonition to eccentric aristocratic superstition. Little did she know that by the next full moon, her skepticism would shatter like fragile glass. On her third evening in the manor, Ruth explored the West Wing, a maze of narrow corridors lined with locked doors and portraits of stern-faced ancestors. At the end of a long hall, she found the gallery, a vaulted chamber lit by tall, arched windows. There, beneath a dusty chandelier, hung the famous moonlit muse. By the waning light of a single lamp, Ruth admired the painting's exquisite detail. The woman's silken robes embroidered with stars, the delicate hand clutching a silver crescent, the faint curve of lips that hinted at a secret smile. The crescent moon peaked above the horizon, its pale arc rising into a sky brushed with indigo. Ruth felt drawn to the painting as twilight deepened. A sudden chill touched her spine as she noticed the woman's eyes had darkened, the irises flickering like molten starlight. Ruth blinked. She swore the subject's lips curved upward in a warmer smile. Heart pounding, she leaned closer. The painting's silver crescent gleamed brighter, as if reflecting the moon itself. Startled, she backed away and fled the gallery, unaware of the silent promise forming in the painted woman's gaze. Determined to understand the phenomenon, Ruth summoned experts from afar. Dr. Isabel Hawthorne, specialist in arcane art, arrived by candlelit carriage with volumes of folklore. Professor Lionel Clark, a physicist intrigued by tales of lunar luminescence, carried precision instruments. They convened in the gallery under a half moon. With delicate precision, Dr. Hawthorne traced the painting's runes, tiny glyphs woven into the starry embroidery, while Professor Clark measured ambient light and reflected wavelengths. As the moon rose, the painting's transformation began anew. The subject's hair darkened to inkier depths. Her sorrowful frown softened into longing. Dr. Hawthorne gasped, "The runes, these ancient lunar sigils, bind the painting's essence to the moon's cycle. With each phase, the portrait breathes anew." Professor Clark's instruments hummed. The reflected spectrum matches moonlight precisely. This canvas captures celestial wavelengths and recreates them visually. They recorded every moment, from the first sliver of the waxing moon to the full orb's zenith. But it was the final discovery that chilled them. Beneath the portrait's surface, a faint inscription emerged beneath ultraviolet light. a dedication from Alaric Dumont, pledging the painting's servant to reveal truths when the moon demands its sorrow. On the night of the new moon, the gallery lay cloaked in darkness, a room of pure shadow. Ruth, Dr. Hawthorne, and Professor Clark entered, lanterns snuffed, relying on the faint glow of moonless starlight. The painting now lay concealed. In the absence of moonbeams, the portrait's image dissolved into inky blackness. Yet from the frame, a whisper emerged, a voice like wind through willow branches. Seek the hidden mirror beyond the weeping willow and learn the secret grief that night alone may borrow. No one could say whether the whisper was in their minds or the room itself. Yet none argued. Thus began a quest to follow the portrait's instructions, venturing beyond the manor into the cold depths of a moonlit garden. Beyond the manor's crumbling wall lay a forgotten courtyard, dominated by a towering weeping willow. Its branches trailed across an overgrown fountain, whose waters had long since stagnated. Ruth and her companions navigated encroaching roots until they found a moss-covered mirror standing beside the fountain. A tarnished Baroque frame, but a perfectly reflective surface. Professor Clark shone his lantern. The mirror's glass did not reflect them, but glowed faintly with a ghostly pale. Dr. Hawthorne read the rune-carved verse on the frame. In reflection shard, see sorrow unbarred. The muse's lament lies buried and scarred. Hesitant but compelled, Ruth stepped before the mirror. The glass shimmered. She saw not her own reflection, but the painted woman's face, eyes tear-bright, cheeks stained with crystal trails. Then the image shifted. A young couple embraced on a moonlit cliff, cloaks billowing like ravens, faces alight with forbidden love. A second glance revealed tragedy, one figure slipping into the waves below. A sorrowful scream echoed as the vision faded. Ruth gasped, heart pounding. The portrait's sorrow, she realized, is this hidden tragedy. Dumont's lost love, betrayed or drowned. Dr. Hawthorne nodded grimly. We must restore that sorrow to the painting, that the muse's story may find its end. Under the next quarter moon, the scholars prepared the restoration. In the gallery, they arranged candles of white wax, symbols of hope, and silver bowls of purified water. Dr. Hawthorne recited incantations from Dumont's codex, while Professor Clark played gentle harmonies on a silver flute, notes chosen to harmonize with the painting's lunar sigils. Ruth, trembling, poured a single drop of fountain water, drawn from beneath the willow, onto the harp engraved at the portrait's base. As the water touched the paint, it glowed with a soft blue shimmer. The portrait trembled. The muse's face transformed. Her sorrowful eyes shifted to tearless resignation. The frown eased into a gentle smile that spoke of acceptance. A final whisper rippled through the hall. No more shall sorrow bind the muse's heart and mind. My love reclaimed by light, I rest beyond the night. As dawn's first rays touched the windows, the painting's runes dimmed, its lunar magic at last complete. By morning, the new portrait was revealed in full. The previous moonlit muse, her eyes clear and bright, her lips curved in a serene smile. In one hand, she held a silver locket, in the other, a white lily. Beneath, a dedication in Dumont's elegant hand. To my love, reborn in light of day, your sorrow unbound, your spirit free. The gallery filled with light, no longer a place of shadows but of renewal. Visitors wept at the painting's beauty, sensing the pain that had once dwelt there, and the peace now restored. Callum's new apprentice, Eliza, daughter of the caretaker, stood by Ruth's side, her eyes shining. You've given her back her hope, the girl whispered. Ruth smiled, brushing a tear from her cheek. Coldwater Manor's West Gallery became a pilgrimage site. Poets composed odes to the restored muse. Scholars studied the painting's lunar runes, and dreamers found comfort in its calm gaze. Dr. Hawthorne published her findings on lunar art magic. Professor Clark's essays on spectral reflection became required reading at the university. And Ruth Sinclair, once a simple archivist, took her place as the custodian of the portrait, chronicling its journey and ensuring its story would never fade. On nights when the new moon rose, villagers still ventured to the gallery, lights off, candles lit, to stand before the silvered frame. Though the portrait no longer shifted with the lunar cycle, its serene countenance seemed to glow with an inner radiance, a quiet reminder that sorrow, once faced, can transform into peace. Thus, the legend of the moonlit muse endured, a testament to the power of art to bind magic and memory, to capture sorrow and release it into the light of dawn, where every heart may find rest beyond the shadows of its own making. In the village of Maribel, nestled between whispering pines and mist-wreathed hills, lived Alina Fenwood, a baker's daughter with a laugh as light as pastry sugar, but eyes that darted at every unexpected sound. For as long as she could remember, Alina had been haunted by a fear she could not name, an instinctive terror that in the dark something watched her, waiting. On the clearest mornings, she chased away the shadows with baking. Her warm hearth and fragrant loaves drove the darkness from her heart. But each twilight, the fear returned, stronger than before, clawing at her mind with silent whispers. Villagers whispered that she suffered from the nightquake, a rare malady of the soul, and no balm, no kindly word could lift the dread that lay coiled in her dreams. One autumn evening, as golden light stained the horizon, an unearthly stranger appeared at the bakery's door, a tall, hooded figure whose cloak shimmered with an inner glow. He carried a slender iron key, its surface alive with shifting runes. "You suffer a fear unspoken," the stranger intoned, voice like wind through dead leaves. "I bear the key of silent fears. It can free you if you choose." Alina's heart raced. The stranger spoke of an ancient order and a long-forgotten fortress buried beneath the Silver Peak Mountains. "But beware," he warned, "the key asks its price. To lock away your fear, you must be willing to surrender the memory that gave it birth." And with that, he was gone, leaving Alina clutching the cold, humming key as dusk fell. Tormented by hope and dread, Alina sought the counsel of old Marith, the village seer who dwelled near the river's bend. In Marith's dim hut, lit by a single lantern, Alina showed the key. Marith's ancient eyes widened. "This is no simple trinket," she breathed. "The night wardens forged it to safeguard sorrow too great to bear. If you lock away your fear, you will lose, at least temporarily, the memory that gave you strength. And should that memory fade completely, the key will vanish, taking you with it." She pressed a gnarled hand to Alina's. "To wield this key is to risk yourself. First, you must journey to the forgotten keep and face the trial of remembrance." With a trembling nod, Alina accepted her fate. Early next dawn, Alina set out for the Silver Peak Mountains. Word of her quest spread, and 3 souls volunteered to join her. Bram the huntsman, whose vengeance for a slaughtered brother had hollowed his heart. Lissa the scholar, driven by a fear of knowing too much and losing herself. And Garrick, a silent blacksmith haunted by the forge's fiery wrath. Each carried a fear they yearned to lock away. Together, the quartet journeyed through sun-glazed meadows and ancient forests where the trees themselves seemed to watch with gnarled curiosity. By the time the jagged spires of Silver Peak churned the sky, they had bonded over shared anxieties and hopes, forging a unity that would be tested by the trials to come. Beneath the mountain's foothills lay the forest of dread whispers, a grove where the wind stirred unseen leaves into murmuring confessions. As the companions passed, the trees heralded their deepest insecurities in shivering sighs. Bram's vengeance roared like a wild beast. Lissa's thirst for forbidden knowledge rattled like dry bones. and Garrick's fear of his own anger rumbled like distant thunder. Alina felt her own unnamed dread surge in response. Every step forward required them to speak aloud their fears, offering them to the sky in defiance. Bram confessed the emptiness of revenge. Lissa accepted that some truths must be faced, and Garrick vowed to master his anger rather than it mastering him. With each truth spoken, the whispers receded, and a narrow path of pale moss opened through the grove. At the forest's end stood the bridge of shattered memories. A crumbling stone span arched over a chasm of swirling mist. Below, vague shapes drifted, fragments of lives lost to time. To cross, each traveler had to relinquish a cherished memory in exchange for safe passage. Bram let go of the moment he heard his brother's last breath. Lissa of the first page of her beloved forbidden tome, Garrick of the roar of his first forged blade, and Alina, despite her deepest reluctance, surrendered the image of her mother's lullaby. The memories flickered in spectral form before dissolving into the mist. Each step across the bridge tested their resolve, but at the far end, they emerged changed. Their memories dimmed, but their hearts steadier. Beyond the bridge lay the forgotten keep, its blackened stones spiraling into the storm-racked heavens. In its highest chamber stood a great iron door, its surface inlaid with ghostly runes that matched the key's engravings. Under crackling lightning, Alina raised the key of silent fears. "This is your trial of remembrance," Mareth's warning echoed in her mind. Bram, Lissa, and Garrick formed a protective circle. "We must find a way to calm the fog," Helena said, analyzing her data. "If we can broadcast a harmonizing frequency, a countertone, it might disrupt the resonance." Faulkner consulted historical records for lullabies and prayer chants used by sailors and keepers. Mira and Bram joined villagers in teaching each other these ancient songs, planning a grand concert to fill the cove with living voices, hopes, and prayers. On the night of the full harvest moon, the cove square filled with lanterns and makeshift benches. Fishermen, scholars, healers, and children gathered as the fog crept low. Faulkner's speakers stood atop wagons. Helena's instruments projected a stabilizing tone, a harmonic wave designed to gently dissolve the fog's time-laden resonance. Mira stepped to the center and began Lydia Haversham's lullaby. Bram followed with a smuggler's refrain. Villagers raised their voices in prayer, poets recited sonnets of loss and love, and children chanted runaway sailors' rhymes. The fog pulsed with every note. At first, the whispering fog resisted. Voices overlapped, distorted into discord. But as living voices, hearts full of present emotion, rose, the spectral echoes began to weave into harmony. The mist shimmered, then lifted in streams, carrying the ancient voices back into memory rather than haunting the present. When the final note faded, a hush fell. The fog thinned to a gentle veil, its voices subdued. Helena's devices showed the anomalous resonance dissipating, the cove's inhabitants wept with relief. That night, the team erected a ward of songs, a carved stone plinth engraved with lines from the lullaby and refrains of the smuggler's songs. They placed it at the cove's highest cliff. "Let living voices be the beacon," Faulkner intoned, warding the fog's hunger for forgotten sorrows. At first light, the sun pierced the horizon. For many in Abernathy Cove, it was the first dawn they had ever truly seen. Birds greeted the warmth, and the sea glittered with sky's reflection. The fog had receded beyond the horizon, leaving only memory of its haunting. Mira, Bram, Helena, and Faulkner stood on the cliff, watching sunlight dance on the waves. The ward of songs glowed in the dawn, a promise that the line between past and present need not be a prison, but a tapestry enriched by every voice, living or remembered. Years later, travelers who chance upon Abernathy Cove marvel at its gentle mists by early morning. No longer do those mists carry lost voices, but a soft hum, like harmonious breathing, rises from the ward of songs. Locals still share the lullaby in smuggler refrains around hearths, teaching each new generation that memories, however sorrowful, can find peace when met with open hearts and living song. And on quiet nights, if you stand at the cliff's edge under a harvest moon, you might just hear the faint echo of a time long past, a reminder that voices from another time need not haunt us, but can guide us toward unity, healing, and the boundless dawn.